Hey, this is Max. Welcome back to Microsoft Flight Simulator. I am taking off from a little airstrip that gives us a great view of Mount Fuji in Japan. We're going to take a little quick tour in Microsoft Flight Simulator of Mount Fuji and also its surroundings. So, taking off from this little airstrip puts me close to the mountain, gives me easy access to Mount Fuji once I take off. Here we go. One of the nicest ways to approach Mount Fuji is from the southeast direction heading northwest. You're flying essentially over a major lake, and it has its own surrounding village as well, but it also gives you a beautiful view both inside the plane and out of Mount Fuji as you approach. This lake actually is called the Lake Within the Mountain in Chinese, Shanzhonghu, which essentially means a lake that is within the mountains. And it has its own little village next to it. In Japanese, it's called the Yamanakako, which in Chinese essentially translates to the village by the lake within the mountains, which again is kind of a beautiful descriptive of exactly what it is. This lake, being where it is, being close to Mount Fuji, when you fly over it and when you look over it, it's just a beautiful view of water and mountain combined. Mount Fuji obviously is the tallest mountain in Japan. It actually sits about 12,000 plus feet high, which means we're going to have to climb quite a bit if we want to look into the crater. I mean, I call it a crater, but it's really the volcanic crater at the top of the mountain where the volcanic activity would take place. I'm trying to do different angles here because it's just a very nice view to see from outside the plane at certain angles, and just kind of how the whole mountain is rendered by the flight simulator. It's really nice. I can imagine if you're actually flying, you're inside the plane, you won't get a view like this, versus here we are outside the plane overlooking Mount Fuji, and it is again a beautifully rendered mountain in the game. It even rendered some of these steps. You can kind of see they look like little zigzags in the mountainside. Believe it or not, that actually shows up on Google Maps, so I'm not sure exactly what that is. So someone who knows more about Mount Fuji may want to chime in and actually tell me whether those are actual steps or whether that was the natural formation of some sort. Regardless, climbing higher, I'm going to bank the plane into and over the mountain so we can get a good view from the top once we get up to the proper altitude. So again, as you can see, this mountain being so tall and large on the island, and with that lake, though it looked close by when we first flew over the lake, you can see that the lake is quite a distance from the base of the mountain. But I think that is probably one of the prettiest views of the Mount Fuji you can have if you lived in that village, or you find a tourist spot, I guess, in that village, and you were to wake up in the morning and look up towards Mount Fuji. That is, of course, assuming we have weather like I'm flying in this case, which is clear weather, because when I flew in Tokyo in the same time frame, Tokyo was overcast, and in fact from Tokyo, if you had clear sky, you could see Mount Fuji, but in this case I couldn't. Now, we're flying over the top of Mount Fuji now. I'm trying to give a different view here as you approach over the volcanic crater in the middle. You can kind of see just how massive and how expansive this mountain is. But at the same time, these kind of volcanoes, like Mount St. Helens and like Mount Fuji, really shows up nicely in this game, so you can actually see the rendering in a form that, you know, gives you a visual feel for the size, the scope, and the majesty of these mountains. pardon my bad maneuvering right there. Let me see if I can get you a better view here. So again, absolutely phenomenal view to kind of fly around and over the mountaintop of Mount Fuji. And you can see both the top crater and the side crater. It's another crater that looks like it's halfway down the mountain. And again, all this, if you were to look at a satellite view from Google Maps or Bing Maps, you would see something very similar to this. But this is rendered pretty nicely in 3D. And it's a great view in the game when you're flying over this. You can actually pause it and change the different angles to kind of look at it. Sure, there's a little distortion from the lens based on how you're approaching it, but still, it is a very breathtaking view from the airplane. Alright, so what we're going to do is kind of now come back down and head towards the lake and take another pass over that lake, because I just want to show that view again. Approaching Mount Fuji from the lake in the airplane is probably one of the best views. And here, leaving Mount Fuji, heading back to the lake, looking at it from this angle is also a beautifully rendered view of the mountain as well. So unlike Mount St. Helen, there's nothing obviously blown out on the side. So this is a whole mountain that just stands up and out from the earth into the sky for 12,000 plus feet. So a very, very nice view. And very well rendered in this game, enough so that it was actually a really fun view, almost like an airplane tour of the mountain that certainly I had a great time doing. I think obviously this won't compare anything to the view of it in real life. If I were to travel to Japan, I certainly would want to go to this village by the lake in the mountains and actually view Mount Fuji from there. Maybe even take a tourist flight ride that would allow me to kind of get a similar tour of Mount Fuji from the air. But again, what I'm doing now is I'm actually taking one final pass, coming back down hard from the mountain, and then I'm going to bank around again to go straight at the mountain over the lake, which is, to me, still one of the best views in the game of Mount Fuji. Okay, here we go. Final pass. I am going to basically fly this plane right over the lake at a low altitude and then face back towards Mount Fuji. This not only gives you a great view from the outside of the airplane, I think when you're sitting in the cockpit even, you can see Mount Fuji pretty clearly right through the front of the cockpit from an internal view. So we'll switch to that in a second, maybe take a look from that angle as we get a little closer to the mountain. But this is, again, a big lake, and you can just imagine the view from sunrise, sunset of the lake and the mountain if you were to live by the side of this lake here. It's a very beautiful look. And there it is, right from the cockpit as we veer over the lake towards the mountain one last time. Well, that is my tour of Mount Fuji in Japan in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll catch you again in another flight. Thank you, and have a good one.